Hi everyone, and welcome to Jane Talks Murder, where I'll be talking about and reviewing an episode of Poirot, Murder, She Wrote, Diagnosis Murder, or Jonathan Creek. Today, I'm going to be looking at Jonathan Creek, The Eyes of Tiresias, or as I like to call it that time, a goldfish concealed evidence. We begin the episode at a crowded club where Maddie eyes up this dashing looking guy, and Jonathan is bumped into by a clumsy lady who legit looks like my primary school teacher, before main event Otto takes to the stage while this lady cleans out a fish tank and watches the national lottery. Man, I've just been hit with the big old wave of nostalgia. Otto and his bubble of bullshit claims to have psychic powers and proves it by calling out the lottery numbers right before they're drawn. Jeez, lady, that is the most basic fish tank ever. At least put a plant in it or something. She sits down to read a Myths and Legends book while Maddie sells Jonathan to Heidi, who explains that the TV was set to a couple of seconds delay so the numbers could be fed through to Otto. But Heidi disagrees and thinks people may be psychic before asking about his windmill. Easy! While really loud music plays. Maddie gets her smooch on and then dances, and Heidi strikes a deal with a confused Jonathan before leaving to return to her aunt, the goldfish lady. Audrey complains she had a bad dream and explains her dream involved an elderly French man getting murdered, pleading for his life as someone came in through the window and shot him.
And he just kept saying, "Oh dear, oh dear."
This French-speaking guy, who you may recognise as the demon headmaster, has breakfast as his wife gets a call from her lover Craig, who arranges a date and says he'll be late for a meeting, but Andre is not having any lateness. Jonathan is woken the next morning by a whole-ass film crew, led by Heidi, who Jonathan misheard the night before, so he calls Maddie, who thinks it's hilarious, before Gino turns up with flowers and a bum pinch. Craig is annoyed that he made the meeting, but is kept waiting. Who eats croissants like that? But anyway, Delia arrives in time to hear a struggle in Andre's office, followed by a gunshot, so they race to the window to find him dead, the gun near the body. Gino rings Maddie for a booty call, and Audrey feeds her fish, while the news of Andre's death plays in the background, which of course freaks her out, so she calls Heidi, who then explains it to Jonathan and Maddie. When Heidi goes to see her aunt, Audrey said she had another dream and this time wrote it down, involving someone, RP, and a creature with wings. Maddie and Gino are about to have dinner when a similar looking guy turns up, Maddie also having hooked up with him the previous night by mistake, which Jonathan finds very funny. An upset woman speeds off in her Jaguar only to get distracted and be run off the road, where her license plate says RP. So Maddie and Jonathan go to see Audrey, who insists there's no way Andre's death could be a coincidence. And Jonathan notes her interest in mythology and that she buys her fish food at the market, before the phone rings reporting Becky's death. Audrey reveals she had another dream prophesizing her own death at the hands of a one-eyed man with a sword, and won't hear that it's not real, before kicking them out of the house. Maddie pretends to be a detective to get information about Andre's death, and discovers Craig is looking guilty due to a contact lens being found at the scene, and the fact Andre knew about the affair and wrote it down in his diary, which Jonathan finds interesting. While on the phone, he gets an idea and asks Maddie to find out something. So she goes to Becky's house and then eavesdrops on Craig talking to the police, saying his flat was broken into before the murder. Audrey goes to bed terrified, while Maddie and Jonathan swap information, with Jonathan saying Andre had a very twisted mind before rushing off, where Audrey's house is broken into by a man with one eye wielding a sword, who stabs her to death, but it was only a dream. Jonathan goes to the house to explain that two of the dreams were the result of reading too much mythology right before bed. The one-eyed man and a winged creature.
How about a harpy? Initials RP?
And the dream didn't predict Becky's death. It actually caused it, seeing as she was afraid of flying and was worried that she was going to die via the winged creature she was about to get on, the aeroplane. And with her initials being RP, she got distracted and crashed. That just leaves Andre's death, and because of a mixture of being in trouble with the law and Delia cheating on him, he decided to unalive himself, but framed Craig in the process. He pre-recorded the whole break-in and murder before burning it onto disc and planting it in Craig's house, while at the same time stealing a contact lens to leave near his body, before recreating the whole thing for real the day he died. Between the contact lens, the diary entries, and the incriminating CD, Craig would surely go down for the murder, except for his flat being broken into, and the stolen goods being resold in a market, with Audrey ending up with a CD, which was playing while she slept, hence why she dreamt of the crime, and the disc being left under the goldfish bowl.
Of course, if it plays Fly Me to the Moon, we're rather screwed.
But of course, it plays the recording of the crime. Okay, so there's a very specific reason I chose to cover this episode, and it's a bit random. Back when I was a kid, I had an audiobook tape of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and on a car journey once, I fell asleep listening to it, and I had a really vivid dream that followed along with the story, and it was really surreal. Anyway, I like how that came into play in this episode, and how despite it seeming like Audrey was having psychic dreams, it was able to be explained away by something real. There's a lot of fluff in this episode, as is standard for the show, Maddie's double dates, the film crew at the windmill, etc. But it also includes a twist on the trope where multiple crimes are committed to cover a single crime. But this time, the mythology-fueled dreams are covering the one that is a premeditated crime. I mean, let's face it, Andre went to too much trouble to frame Craig for his own murder, although it was a clever hint at his plan when he insisted that Craig not be late for the meeting. Jonathan wasn't kidding when he said Andre had a twisted mind. Like, who does that shit? And also, what a weird place to shoot himself. Surely the head would make more sense. Poor Becky Phillips was the episode's collateral damage, but also having Audrey's dream be the cause rather than a prediction was an unexpected twist, which I appreciated. We have two victims, Andre Masson, who was his own killer and tried to frame Craig Downey, and Rebecca Phillips, who I will mention, even though her death was at the hands of distracted driving, but we all know who the real mastermind is, don't we? So there you have it. That was The Eyes of Tiresias. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, or come say hi on social media. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button, it really does mean a lot, or consider subscribing if you want more videos like this one. Alternatively, feel free to check out my other YouTube channels. Thank you so much for watching, I'll speak to you soon, and keep an eye out for clues.